You didn't vote for the war in Iran. You didn't sign off on the drones or the deployments. But look at your grocery bill. You're paying for it anyways. The government doesn't need your permission through taxes anymore. They have a cheat code. When they want a war, they don't ask for your vote. They just print the money and steal the value from your bank account. Inflation isn't just bad economics. It's the engine of the forever war. And until we fix the money, we will never have peace. Today, we're talking about why Bitcoin is the only veto you have left. Sound money is something that even our founding fathers understood was an integral part of keeping the republic healthy. And so now, on the debasement index, let's get into the math they do not want you to see. Welcome back to the Debasement Index, you guys. My name is Angel Rios, and this is a channel solely focused on building capital in a fiat world together. Now, I won't make this video too long, but this is going to be essentially a Bitcoiners rant to what's going on right now. I try not to get political on this channel. I'm not particularly a political person. I'm Team Orange, as all of my subscribers know. And that's what I try to push for, because I think adopting Bitcoin makes individuals better, makes individuals' lives better. And I certainly think that going back to a hard money standard will make the world better. Now, keep in mind, I don't think that if the world was going to get on a Bitcoin standard or on a hard money standard, is going to eliminate war and suffering from the equation. There's nothing in history that points to that. Matter of fact, there's periods where the world has been on a hard money standard and there's still been war. However, the caveat there is, if the government wants to go to war, they have to do two things. They have to be fiscally responsible with the money. And two, they have to make sure that their population is on board with the war. Citizens of a nation used to be able to vote and decide on whether or not they want to go to war. What's the example here? Well, in the old days, when money was tied to hard assets like gold and silver, the governments had a certain amount in their treasury that they could use for war. And if they felt like they needed to raise more money in order to fund the war effort, they would either raise taxes on the population, or two, they would ask the population to pay for a war bond. Okay, war bonds were very popular from governments in times of war. And people, if they didn't want to pay more taxes, well, you had revolts and people denying to pay the taxes. Therefore, the war was unpopular and the government didn't have the funds to continue to wage war. Or two, the war bonds, right? If they have a huge influx of money coming in war bonds, well, they would go ahead and be able to fund the war. And if the war was unpopular, well, the war bond fundraising would certainly not be successful, and they would run out of money. What system do we live in now? Well, now we have fiat currency. And with fiat currency, governments can print money ad infinitum in order to fund their war effort. Now, a lot of times, when I talk to friends, coworkers, whatever, it sounds somewhat unpatriotic when I say the dollar is bullcrap money, and that the government, or how I speak out against what the government is doing, as is my First Amendment right, sounds unpatriotic at times. I think the absolute opposite. I think speaking out against what's going on right now is absolutely the patriotic thing to do. and speaking out against debasement is absolutely the patriotic thing to do. For the government to steal from the people is absolutely the right thing to do. And I'm going to get into it with you as to why. And guess who else backs me up? The founding fathers of our nation who understood this issue. And now you have economists and the boomers that allowed for this fiat system to propagate after the year 1971. They got stolen from it. They did nothing. And then they proceeded to implement laws and implement legislation that continue to steal from the future of their children and their grandchildren. And they didn't give two shits about it. And I'm going to show you right now exactly how the founding fathers have my back on this one, and how being against fiat currency and monetary debasement is absolutely the patriotic American thing to do. Let's see what the founding fathers had to say. Our founding fathers were young men, a lot of them, sometimes 18, 19, 20 years old. And they understood this better than the absolute idiots running our financial system and our government. Thomas Jefferson. You guys might know him. This was his take on the danger of banks. I quote, this is Thomas Jefferson speaking. I sincerely believe that banking establishments are more dangerous than standing armies, and that the principle of spending money to be paid by posterity under the name of funding is but swindling futurity on a large scale. That's Thomas Jefferson for you. Meaning printing money to be paid by your sons and daughters. He understood that that is theft. Theft of your children and your grandchildren's future. George Washington, the father of our nation, of our republic, on how to ruin the public. I quote, paper money has had the effect in your state that it will ever have, to ruin commerce, to oppress the honest, and open the door to every species of fraud and injustice. You see it happening now. You see the fraud happening in the federal government, in state governments, Minnesota, Washington, D.C. You see the scams that are able to propagate because of this asinine monetary system that we live in that steals from you, the people, the citizens of this nation, the Americans, and gives the money to a select few that are close to the money printer. James Madison, on the unjust nature of fiat, I quote, the extension of the prohibition against paper money to bills of credit must give pleasure to every citizen. In proportion to his love of justice and his knowledge of the true springs of public prosperity, paper money is unjust, unconstitutional, and anti-Republican. What he means by anti-Republican, it's not the Republican Party, but it's against the Republic. Because paper money, fiat currency, stands against everything that the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and the establishment of this republic was built on. John Adams, on the abuse of the people, I quote, every dollar of a bank bill that is issued beyond the quantity of gold and silver in the vaults represents nothing and is therefore a cheat upon somebody. End quote. I'm going to say this again. beyond the quantity of gold and silver in the vaults represents nothing, and therefore it is a cheat upon somebody. It's John Adams, people. I'll give you two more. Alexander Hamilton on the seduction of money printing. I quote, "The emitting of paper money is wisely prohibited to the state governments, and the spirit of the prohibition ought not to be disregarded by the United States government," meaning the federal government. "To emit an unfunded paper as the sign of value is to seduce the nation into a most perilous and destructive error." And you're, quote, and you're quite seriously feeling that destructive error now. Last one. Benjamin Franklin on the cost of the revolution. Quote, "The colonies would gladly have borne the little tax on tea and other matters had it not been that England took away from the colonies their money, which created unemployment and dissatisfaction." I note, Franklin often argued that the British suppression of colonial script was a primary driver for the revolution. He understood that whoever controls the money controls the people. You think these men are unpatriotic, the ones that fought for our independence, that had the balls to create a republic? Say that about our founding fathers. Now, like the video, like the thumbnail said, this is a big corners rant. I'm extremely disappointed in what's going on right now. And I want people to understand that the source of this, whatever political side of the aisle you stand with, I don't care about that. The source of all of these issues is fiat currency and monetary debasement. Because this war in Iran that's going on right now, we've already lost 3 service members. And I feel for their families. Horrible. You know what's just as saddening? A girls' school in Iran also got bombed. And I believe there's 97 girls that got blown up into smithereens. Nobody wins here, except for a very few select people. And I'm all for the good fight. I'm all for a just and noble fight. But the problem is that the people didn't get to choose. We didn't get to vote on this. Now, I myself am a father to a beautiful 8-month-old girl. And we just found out 2 days ago that we're gonna have another girl. So if you have any name suggestions for the next girl, go ahead and put it in the comments. But this war, they're printing dollars and they're printing money to fund it. They're not getting the money from the people. They're getting the money by stealing it from the people through inflation, and this is something that we will feel 2 years down the road. But it's stealing money from my future. It's stealing purchasing power from my future. And more importantly, my 2 daughters' future. And one isn't even born yet, and she already has a $120,000 debt ticket as a U.S. citizen. And it's stealing money from my wife's future, from the family, from the citizens of this nation. And that is what angers me so much. Because we're going to feel this, and we're going to feel this in a big way. It all started in 1971 when Richard Nixon took America off the gold standard in order to fund Vietnam, because Nations around the world were redeeming their gold because they knew that the US didn't have the money to do everything that they were doing. They got margin called. And they took us off the gold standard, and a whole generation saw this happen and saw their money get stolen, and they did nothing. They sat there like cowards. I'm talking about you, boomers. Generation of cucks. And that whole generation profited massively while stealing from their sons and their daughters and their grandchildren. And they sit atop their high castles while watching the world burn for their descendants. Let's get into more of why this is an issue. Now, don't get me wrong. My parents, for example, they're boomers themselves. And I love them to death. Right? My stepdad, who is a great man, and he's my dad on every sense of the book. Great dude. My mother, great dude. My mother, great dude. My mother, amazing woman. But what the boomers as a whole, what the baby boomer generation as a whole did is selfish, to say the least. But no issues, millennials, Gen Z, Gen X, we got this, man. What's that saying? Good men, what is it? Strong men make for good times. Good times make for weak men. Weak men make for hard times. That's what we're in right now. Now the strong men are back. Strong men and women are back. And we are going to create good times for our descendants, no doubt. So this war with Iran, it's a systemic problem. Okay, it's been happening since 1971. Where the government thinks they can do whatever they want because they don't need permission for funding. They can just print the money. The old way, they used to raise taxes or sell war bonds. It required a sales pitch from the government to its people to get them on board. If the public didn't buy the bonds, the war lacked the funding and legitimacy. It was a built-in veto for the citizens. Now, the Fiat way since 1971, the end of the gold standard, the government can simply just print the money. They can just print the money, and this removes the need for public approval. It removes it completely. We pay for it later through the reduction in our purchasing power because they just diluted our dollars. By the time you feel the cost at the grocery store, like 2 years later from this, either the war's already over or it's entrenched, like we were during GWAT in Iraq and Afghanistan. Now with Bitcoin is a truth machine. It's a truth money. It's a truth-based money. You cannot print more Bitcoin in order to fund a drone strike. If you want to fight, you have to tax the people directly, which, by the way, makes war a lot harder to start and to sustain. Because inflation is a regressive tax. You pay for it in purchasing power, guys. When the money supply increases, the value of every single dollar in your pocket decreases. It has an inverse relationship to one another. It's a tax that doesn't require a vote by Congress either. And who pays? This is who pays: the poor and the middle class, who have their wealth in cash and wages. They don't own assets. You know who wins? People who are close to the money printer, the military-industrial complex, big banks. I urge you to research what the Cantillon effect is. And I'll tell you. Because it is the people that are closest to the money printer, defense contractors, big banks, get the new money first. before the prices rise. And by the time that money flows down to the average citizen, the prices have already gone up. And this fiat currency system, it fuels the perpetual war engine. Fiat currency allows for forever wars because there's no game over. There's no game over on the budget because there's no budget. We need more money, we'll print more money. We need more bombs, we'll print more money for more bombs. Under a hard money system like gold or Bitcoin, a nation eventually runs out of quote unquote ammunition. They run out of capital, they run out of money. And under the fiat system, all the government has to do is move the decimal point. If you can print the money, you are incentivized to solve geopolitical problems, as you can see, with expensive military force rather than difficult diplomacy. Because the cost of war feels free in the short term. The solution, Bitcoin is a solution to this. Hard money is a solution to this. By moving your money, your wealth, into a 21 million capped asset, Bitcoin, you are effectively opting out of the system that finances these conflicts. Bitcoin forces a return to fiscal reality. If a government can't print money, they have to be productive and peaceful to attract capital. War becomes a literal luxury in a hard money system that nations simply can't afford. We need to understand this as a people, as a citizenry. We need to understand this, and we need to understand this now. I get so frustrated seeing people just saying like, yeah, let's go to Iran, let's go here, let's go there, let's F them up. And they've never picked up a rifle in their life. And they never will. They never will. And before I get anybody in the comments being like, oh, like you don't support the war in Iran. Listen, I've signed the dotted line before. Twice. And I've served my nation in a combat MOS. And I've been deployed. So before I get anybody in the comments being like, he doesn't support what's going on right now, you don't know exactly what I'm talking about. And I have an insight and a perspective that I guarantee you don't. Like I said, I'm all for the good fight. If it's a good, honest, noble fight, and we're doing, and there's good men and good women doing things to bad people, doing bad things to bad people, let's get it on. But the people, the citizens of the nation, need to be able to vote on this with their money, with hard money, with money that is not debased. So before anybody starts complaining about the president or this person or that political party or this political party, understand people are always going to try to abuse power once they obtain it. It's a story as old as time. And the issue here is the fact that nobody realizes that the monetary system that we live under, this fiat currency, is the source of the problem. Because us as citizens don't get to pull the plug on their... If we were on a hard money standard, if we were on a Bitcoin standard, we could pull the plug on their... But we cannot do that now. It is the fight of my generation, of millennials. Because boomers are not going to do this. We are going to do this. It is our moral responsibility to make this happen, to bring the world back on a hard money standard, to be able to pull the plug on deranged, corrupt, and immoral politicians. Hey, you guys are pedophiles? Roger that. No more funding for you. Get the out. Hey, you're doing wars we don't like? Roger that. Funding plucked. Get the fuck out. So that's my rant. That's my rant on this that is going on. If you stay till the end, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. We're at 54 subscribers. We're growing. Guys, I can't thank you enough. If you feel like with this video I've earned your subscription, go ahead and click the subscribe button. I'd be honored. Hit the like button if you've liked the video. Share the video with other people. Click the bell notification so you don't miss any future content. And leave comments, guys. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. Without further ado, that's it for me. This is the Debasement Index. My name is Angel Rios, and this is a channel solely focused on building capital in a fiat world together. Have a great one, guys. Let's build this future.